Hey, what's up everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so it is 4 a.m. You guys know me. That means my body clock has me up. Probably went to sleep about 10:45 right after I made the video and listened to it in regards to the Lakers. And everything is going well in Lakerland after 3 straight victories. So we're over here on cloud 9, given the fact that we started off as bad as we did. But no, that's not necessarily the conversation here. I wanted to give you guys a therapy session. Talk about anything and everything, really. Whatever comes to mind, nothing, who knows. But the thing that kind of prompted me to turn on the camera was just listening to people throwing a real fit over Chris Brown's Michael Jackson Thriller tribute performance being canceled at the American Music Awards. And we know Michael Jackson cleaned up at the American Music Awards many times over in his day. In fact, he probably has more AMAs than anyone else, probably. But it's one of those situations where, it just makes you speculate about what all goes into canceling Thriller's tribute after what is this supposed to be, the 40 year? Yeah, I'd say 40 year anniversary of the highest selling album in the history of albums, from the highest selling artist in the history of artists, Michael Jackson. It's one of those situations where I can look at that and say, okay, they can always justify canceling anything involving Chris Brown because of the past that he had with Rihanna. They can always refer to Rihanna situation, and that'll be enough every time, probably for the rest of his life, regardless of what it is that anybody has to say in regards to that or against that. It's kind of just foolproof. You got to just shut up after they say that. And that's the evil in the long-term effects of an action like that. You do something like that, and no matter how far away from it you are removed, you are still right there with it, especially given who it was that he did it to and how we understand her to have evolved and become today. It's not like she disappeared. We're still very much hurt by her being hurt, and so on and so forth. So that ain't minor, and I'm always gonna feel that way. But at the same time, I also know that there are dualities that go on, just like we talk about a lot of times in regards to certain conversations that we have on this channel. When you define hate a certain way, you can blanket it on people that don't deserve it or take it too far, or just flat out punish a person for stuff long after they've paid their price. It's part of cancel culture, just being able to dismiss a person forever for something that they did in a day, no matter what it is. If it's fireable enough, it can't shake it loose. I was fortunate enough to be raised by a mom and surrounded by the right people, I guess you could say, that kept me out of certain situations that would otherwise flare up the worst within me during a time in my life where I wasn't wise enough to not let it happen. I was fortunate enough to have good friends that when I was at my lowest with substances, drunk, high, or what have you, that I had good friends that protected me from myself in some situations, kept me from being in positions that would otherwise have things attached to my lasting name, things that would have happened when I was in my 20s, things that would have happened when I was in my teens. I was lucky. I had somebody around me to tell me how to handle myself. Lucky I wasn't famous with a bunch of money and access to even stronger substances. There's a lot of stuff that fell into favor for me. Or maybe even, if you want to say, fell out of favor, if you consider what we're talking about and the fame and the money that came with Chris Brown's lifestyle at that time. Maybe because of the blessings in his life that allowed him to be rich and famous, it also put him in a position to have that very unfortunate conundrum where you do something at a certain time in your life and the world knows about it for the rest of your life. But at the end of the day, that's the cards he was dealt. So when we look at situations like this, we have to first start and say this doesn't happen without that action. But now that we look at what is possible, what an opportunist can do when you have something like that attached to your name, now you look at a situation like this where there's probably no soul on this earth that is better equipped to tribute Michael Jackson today than Chris Brown. Not a single soul. Somebody that Michael Jackson on several occasions co-signed and praised for his talent, praised for the style that he provided when tributing Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was able to lay eyes on Chris Brown tributing Michael Jackson and approved. So we know what Mike thought of Chris's talent. We know what Mike thought of Chris's gift. So it's one of those situations where it's like, I think Mike would want someone with that talent and that gift to hold him down at any given moment for the rest of eternity. If a guy is that dope, he should be the guy tributing Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson should never be forgotten because of what he contributed to this earth within the time that he lived. So I don't think there should be a time where we don't celebrate Michael Jackson, not the 40th anniversary, not the 80th anniversary, not the 400th anniversary of Thriller, because that's exactly how much we love that album. That's how much we bought that album. That's how much y'all made money off of that album, American Music Awards. That's how much money y'all made off that album, People Behind the Curtain. So now that we look at the situation and we speculate at the perfect storm for being able to always punish the very great Chris Brown, you simultaneously are also in a position to be questioned in regards to who else you're trying to punish, while having the foolproof ability to punish Chris Brown. Who else are you punishing in the situation, my friends? Are you punishing all of us? Because that's what it felt like you were doing from behind the curtain when you were punishing Kanye West, taking $8 billion from him in front of all of our faces so we could fear that. Or Kyrie Irving, forcing him to apologize and having all kinds of stress being weighed down upon him. It's funny how people treat disrespect with compounding disrespect. And at some point in time, you got to ask yourself, if balancing is the goal, if even is what we're shooting for, then my friends, you've applied too much. So what would then be due? So that's what I'm saying here in regards to this particular situation. I understand that there have been black people who have thrown stones at those behind the curtain as of late. So making an example of people who throw stones tends to be a theme. And so as I see the pattern, I just look at this as yet another domino effect from the start of that process. Since Kanye said he was going to go DEFCON 5, it seems like DEFCON 5 has come to the industry in regards to the talent and those who are affected by those who can afford to respond. And I don't think it's lost upon me that Kanye said it was war before that, and everything that has transpired ever since has looked exactly like strikes from within a war. So a holy war, to be exact, given the fact of what we're talking about and who we're talking about. So you know they'll take it that far in any holy situation when it's the Spirit of God in the balance. So as I say that, I know that I prayed to God about these very people before this process even began. Regardless of what they've been praying about on their own personal times, I myself have prayed to the source that I pray to in regards to these people, and I have my own spiritual understanding about what the Lord wants to do based on how he's compelling me to speak. What he's putting in my heart as I'm watching these things happen. So as I look at Kanye West and say, you asked for it based on how you were saying the DEFCON 5 thing and everything around that. I can say to Kyrie, you asked for it by knowing that Kanye had done that and then proceeding to post something that they would otherwise hate. And of course, I tell Chris Brown, you asked for it because you did what you did a long time ago before knowing any of this was possible. And I tell Michael, he asked for it because he did whatever it is that he did that ultimately put them in a position to want to punish him 40 years after that album was released, 15 years after he had passed away, or more than 15 years. It's been more, probably 20 years after he passed, however long it's been. It was 03, I think it was, close to it. So as I look at that and I just say they hated Michael Jackson when he was alive, they hate Michael Jackson now. So Chris Brown being in a position to have done what he did, and this gives them an opportunity to schedule him for something they could cancel him for. Probably never intended to allow him to do it in the first place. This is how I believe that actually went. So, as I look at people like JD who are calling it out saying, we need to take a look at it, black music's in trouble. No, it's not. Black people are under attack, as always, as it pertains to those folks who want to keep us under their thumb as they continue to do business around us. Business that probably needs to be done in order for us to be successful. As I come to look at things in this fullness of their nature, everybody plays their role in regards to the entertainment business, in regards to the functionality of this world that we appreciate. And I'm pretty sure those behind the curtain do a whole lot. So they don't want no disrespect. They don't want people to get them riled up. They don't want people knocking them over their head or what have you, making them feel any trauma that they've already been through. But when you look at trauma and you look at what happens, just like we said about the balance of doing too much and what's due, we have to not deserve any karma that would otherwise be bad. When I say that, I know I'm presumptuous in regards to what people would believe and what they have to do and listen to my voice. That's not what I'm trying to convey. I'm saying if you betray that, I think my experiences in life have shown me that you will receive what comes with that. It's not good. You got to provide balance. You can't be slashed. They say an eye for an eye. You can't take 6 eyes for 1 eye, man, and then expect it not to catch up with you in a different way. And I think that's what essentially what we are kind of seeing. It's like, I understand you've been punished and now you have a lot of power. But, and that punishment may not have been due. Maybe you thought your trauma was not due, and that's more than fair given the fact that the people who went through it didn't deserve nothing but not what came their way, so to speak. But as a whole, when we start talking about the offenses, we start talking about what type of curses we bring our people's way, what type of generational curses we weigh upon our children's souls, it comes from overreacting to trauma and initiating trauma in others. Now, you've been hurt. You went through the worst of things. Now you want to look at the next man and say, I went through the worst of things, so next time anybody strikes me, I'm taking 7 lashes off of them. It's like, no, buddy. No, what you've done in that situation now is deserve what already hit you. Now karma came later. Now you're asking the Lord to pay the tab for what it is that was already punishment. Punishment you didn't deserve, you ended up paying for. And we don't look at it that way. But for everything that we're doing, there's something that has to be taken away. That's the life we're in. That's the balance of things. For what is not somewhere else. So if you're doing too much, you're causing the trauma to others that ultimately you're running from, what then becomes what it is that those people deserve, regardless if they have the power themselves to initiate their defense, like you may have. The reality is that the balance of things must take place regardless of how protected or vulnerable they may feel, just from the sheer nature of gravity itself. You're causing trauma, people. Trying to protect your honor. You're engaging in the enemy's energy and not giving enough power to the faith that we all claim to believe in, the source that this is supposed to be all about. You're not giving him enough, of his respect to say vengeance is yours as it pertains to anything that I go through. Isn't that what we believe? That we're not God, so we're supposed to adhere to God's will in regards to what happens to us, for us, and around us? The submission of things. Where does submission come in for these people in regards to that God, in regards to their pain, in regards to their defense against other people? God comes in mind until it's time for them to enact vengeance, and then vengeance is theirs, says the people behind the curtain. I don't know about that. That ain't what I read. I don't know about that doctrine. Sounds like people trying to be God behind the curtain themselves. Sounds like they trying to say, thank you, God, I got it from here, though. Like they know what comes with what they do. They got all the wisdom now. The wisdom is all encompassing in those people. It's all encompassing behind the curtain because they make all the money and are intertwined in all the business practices. So they have the wisdom now. They know who should get what and who shouldn't. Because if we can determine that based on how much they've accomplished in working around talented people and working around hardworking talented people, and find themselves in position to play middleman to a bunch of talented hardworking people, if that gives them the wisdom to give 7 lashes for one, then the 38 years I've lived didn't provide me much wisdom at all. I must have missed something. Because that don't usually work in no other walk of life. But apparently, when it comes to these folks in this situation, yeah. And for what I know about leverage and business and dealing with people who, are watching you behave a certain way and determining whether or not to do business with you based on that behavior, stuff that gets so tricky and mickey that you got to have a marriage in place or else you're not going to be able to keep your CEO job, that kind of garbage. Because we live in a world where that is the case, I understand why people want to buck break others. They don't care nothing about what's floating around in those people's heads. They care about what's floating around in the people's heads who are watching them treat those people a certain way. And that is why I disrespect all buck breaking, because I know what it's about. It's about you protecting against those you feel threatened by. And we're not that. You lashing us because you don't feel threatened by us, because you know we can't hurt you, or at least you believe we can't based on what it is that we own. I know what this is about. And that's why this is an act of God. See, when the wealth gap is this vast, the people who don't have the wealth will likely not have the context to know what the hell the people who do have the wealth are guarding against and what the hell it is that they're doing. They're not going to let you know. Because if you know, then you had their secrets. But that is what this is about. That is why they've always treated us a certain way. Because they were always in competition with some other whale. Someone with a whole lot of power. Just because we don't have it don't mean that someone else in the room doesn't have it. And they guarding against that. And when you consider that they have an enemy, a powerful enemy, then you consider why they treat you so funny, why they treat you so bad, and why they've been treating you so bad for so long. It ain't about you. It's about who they are in competition with. Whoever that is in the shadows. I don't know much about much, but certain things kind of lay themselves out flat for you to see. And you also know what's in someone's best interest not to let you know systematically. And that's exactly what this appears to look like to me. So I reject that. I reject that because not enough has been given to me for me to otherwise accept that. If you're not going to tell me what's behind the curtain and what you're dealing with, what you have to clean, what it requires to keep that curtain clean. Don't expect me to respect that while I'm watching you behave in such a way to keep that damn curtain clean. And don't expect the people around me who are not thinking this way to understand it either. That's why I say, if you're going to be back there, you better communicate with this generation, because we're not the type that's just going to sit here and listen and accept stuff that doesn't make sense. We got to calculate it. We're paying attention. We're calculating, and none of it making no sense. It's not adding up. And never did. And as I said, I don't believe I've said this in a previous video, I'll say it here. I don't believe everybody was lying. I don't believe that all of the people who would understand this in faith would understand this by specifics. I don't know that to be something that would even be possible in this world. Those who are aware have taken advantage of those who aren't. They've led them in a direction that allows them to think that they are living in a world where certain things are a certain way while they're actually a certain different way. And I think that's the conversation that needs to be had in regards to the community, both our community and theirs. We need to know what has been lied about. We need to know what the truth is, and we need to not be in our feelings about it. Just like I talk about with the Lakers, I think when it comes to matters of the soul and matters of people and social stuff, especially when we already have so many of us that are intertwined with one another, we need to be facts over feelings, and we need to be efficient in what we're doing. It can't be I hate us and us over you against you. No, it's too many. As we know and appreciate, there are too many people a part of both families for us to, especially those of us who don't share racial, DNA with both sides. We need to respect those who do, and not simply think that we can settle on the fact that, okay, I'm standing on my side, you stand on yours, and we could go that way. It does not absolutely work at all. It don't work. You're gonna have three groups in a situation like that, and that makes the situation horrible. So we gotta find a way to love one another while still accepting whatever the facts are and what it is that we're finding and what it is that we have to deal with. And then when they're bad folks that we find are upholding the bullcrap on both sides, because you best believe they're on both sides. We've seen that already. We saw who spoke up for and against. We know. Then we need to stay focused accordingly when those people reveal themselves and we're blindsided by their bullcrap. Because they exist. This could not keep up if not for the compliance of those who look like me. Couldn't keep going. In fact, they're just as much as contributors to it than anyone else. That's what I understand. That's what I will preach here. This is not a skin color we're fighting against. It might have started that way, maybe. But by the time you get to 2022, you don't know who's who. So don't think you do. It ain't as simple as saying he's that, praised that way, he looks that way, he got that skin. Nah. I'm telling you, that is definitely not what we're dealing with. Infiltration on both sides. It's energy you gotta trust. That's why you can't tell me Kyrie Irving's anti-Semitic, because I'm trusting energy. He just donated this amount of money. He just donated that amount of money. I look back in his past, that isn't an aberration. He was doing it when this wasn't going on. If anything, y'all shook him out of what it is he was doing. He was in the middle of finding out who he was and sharing that information with people he loved. And y'all disrupted it with y'all hatred, y'all insecure, defend my people, but not really defend them, because in the process of doing so, I'm going to promote what it is that otherwise we're saying disrespects them and put them in a position where people are asking them questions that make their environment not as peaceful. But nevertheless, we're protecting them. Bull crap. I guess I'm supposed to be too lost in the sauce to even understand that, though. They just put Kyrie through some bull crap, told us that he was sorry, made him say he was sorry when clearly he was sorry that he had to say sorry. And I'm supposed to just sit up here and say, yep, that's fine. No, that's not fine. Whoever it is that you are posturing for, that you think sees you as strong for behaving that way, you need to understand there are more people who are watching who are aware. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching, and I'm out.